Tessa with Hip Over 50. So, today I'm going to continue on my series of Would an American Want to Move to the UK? I've done other series or other videos on climate, safety, health. Today I'm going to talk about affordability. Is it more affordable in the UK than the US? So, I'm Tessa with Hip Over 50. This channel is about my move to the UK, what I'm discovering, what I'm finding out, what I think about it, and hopefully it can help you make some choices in your life too. So, on with the show. So, let's start with housing. That is usually the biggest whack most of us have in our budget, right? I took a quick look, and right now, for example, let's compare the two big cities. So, New York City, of course, in the US, let's say London here in the UK. New York, you can expect to pay about $4,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. That's the average. In London, it's a little bit more affordable at $3,250 per month. So there you go. Already, it's a little more affordable in the UK, right? But what are the average house prices here? Well, in March of 2023, they are averaging about £300,000. That's $375,000. And the average rent is running about $1,500 per month. Now, keep in mind the UK is 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And house prices can vary widely, from multi-million dollar properties all the way down to very affordable properties. Similar to the States, you have these are just averages. So $375,000 is your average house price in the UK. What is it in the US? Well, the US is coming in at $437,000 average. That, I think, is quite a big hike from where it used to be. Prices are definitely on the up in the US. Average rents in the US range from $1,200 to $1,700 per month, which puts the UK figure of $1,500 per month kind of right in the middle of that pack, doesn't it? So we're a little more affordable here on house prices. What about energy bills? Well, because that's definitely a big factor now, isn't it? With the cost of energy going through the roof. Your average energy bill in the US per month is about $110 to $300. And that variety can be, some states practically have gas on tap, and some state tax laws are very favorable to energy providers and customers, so that that disparity is reflected in that range. In the UK, you'll spend about $260 a month, and I will definitely attest to that. It's definitely gotten almost 4 times as expensive for energy costs here in the UK, but still it comes in right about the same as the US. What about putting gas in your car, or petrol as they call it here? Well, the average monthly spend for gas is $150 to $200 in the US, whereas in the UK it's only $125 per month. That could be reflected in the, maybe smaller cars, more energy efficient, and the fewer distances people have to travel to get to where they need to go. But so there's a little bit of a savings there on both energy costs from the UK to the US. What about groceries? I mean, those are really a big indicator of the inflation that we've been going through. The average grocery cost per week for a family in the US is now about $300 per week. In the UK, it's about $140 a week. And again, I can attest to that. When I recently returned to the US, I was really surprised at how expensive groceries had gotten in the recent years. So UK is definitely more affordable in the grocery area. So about half the cost of the US for groceries here in the UK. What about overall household expenses? I mean, everything from your housing to your energy costs to your cable, your food, your dining out, your entertainment, your clothes, everything. So they estimate that the average family in the US is spending about $5,500 per month on everything, and that includes healthcare, whereas in the UK it's a more affordable $3,600 per month. Now let's talk about healthcare, because that is a big differentiator between the two countries. Healthcare costs in the US, they say, are averaging about $560 a month. I think that's probably on the low side, because I know a lot of folks are paying double that for a healthcare premium per month. So there you go. On the healthcare and dental front, I was curious to find out, well, what about dental costs? Because that doesn't bankrupt you, but it certainly can add up. So a dental cleaning in the US ranges from $75 to $200, and I think I paid on kind of on the low end of that when I was in the U.S. In the UK, actually, it's a little cheaper. It's like 30 to a little over $100. And again, I spent on the high side of that. I think it recently cost me about 80 pounds to get my teeth cleaned. So even though we have NHS dentists here, they are not free. So I did sign up with a private dentist because I couldn't get on the list for the NHS dentist. And that's just the reality of life. You know, free health care, but you will probably pay for private dental care. But still, it definitely shows a break here for people that live in the UK. They don't have those high healthcare costs or healthcare premiums to pay for. But what about your income? You know, how much money do you get to take home in each country to pay for all of these bills? Well, in the U.S., your income tax tax rate is 10 to 37%, 37% being the highest tax rate. In the UK, it's 0 to 45%. So the low is lower and the high is higher. I think you can earn £12,500 per year in the UK without being taxed. Let's take a fictional $200,000 salary. So on a $200,000 salary in the US, you would take home about $143,000. In that same salary in the UK, you would take home about £110,000. So I think it's definitely a little more favorable in the US. Now, that is federal income tax. Most states, not all, but most states do have state income tax, and that can add another 8% to your tax burden. So not a massive difference there between the taxation rates. I'm a little more familiar with U.S. tax laws. I mean, you can offset your mortgage interest, for example, your property tax, and you can, exempt $250,000 of sales gain on a property if you're single, and $500,000 if you are married. So that is kind of nice. You get to roll over that equity, or help to increase your wealth that way. So what about those property taxes? Well, that can be a fairly big expense. In some states like Texas, its property taxes are really high because Texas doesn't have any state income tax, so that's how they make up the revenue. But average over the whole country is property taxes are about 1% of your home value. So on that average home value of $437,000, you'd pay about $4,370 per year on property tax. The similar tax in the UK is council tax. Now, property taxes and council tax both pay for about the same things. They're basically paying for the infrastructure in wherever you live. They pay for the police, the fire department, schools, etc., etc. But property taxes are basically on the property, whether it's residential or commercial. The owner of the property pays those, and they pay them annually. Whereas in the UK, council tax is kind of based on the individual, and those are paid usually by the month. But the comparison is the average council tax in the UK runs about $2,400 a year. So that could be half of what you pay in the US. So what does it all add up to? Well, I think we can agree overall the UK actually comes in looking pretty good for affordability. Not hugely, there's not a massive difference. I think you would take home a little more of your pay in the US, but it may be offset by the higher healthcare costs that you have in the US. And there's not any bargains there anymore now that we've all experienced this cost of living crisis. So I think the bottom line would be if you're still working, you have a great job, you've got your health, you may be better off staying in the US because you get to take home more of your pay. But if you want to have a slightly better quality of life, not worry about healthcare costs, and experience life here in England, I think it's very doable. It's certainly, our groceries are a little cheaper, certain things are a little cheaper, like healthcare, dentistry, even filling up your car with gas. So I think there's definitely something to be said for UK affordability. So there you go. I think that this is a great place to live. I do think the healthcare thing is massive. I think the NHS is wonderful. I've done another video about it. I think the fact that you don't have to worry about how much healthcare is going to cost, that it can't bankrupt you, is massive. So put that in your consideration. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, please put them below. I would love to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I will probably do another in this series, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.